right, go ahead and call the Sherwood City Council special meeting into session October 28th, 2025 at 6 p.m. All right, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, everybody. Sylvia, roll call.
Mayor Osner?
Here.
Council President Young?
Here.
Councilor Browse?
Here.
Councilor Stankey?
Here.
Councilor Mays?
Here.
Councilor Scott?
Here.
Councilor Giles?
Here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sylvia. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
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 All those opposed, same. Motion passes. Thank you, Council. Citizen comments. Sylvia, do we have any citizen comments?
I have none, Mayor.
Okay, and I'm looking online, and I am seeing none online, so we'll move right into public hearings. And we have three resolutions on the agenda tonight. Sylvia, do we need to be read in for these?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
The Sherwood City Council will hold a public hearing this evening to receive testimony on 3 items on the agenda. Resolution 2025-073, declaring an emergency and calling for a special election to amend the Sherwood City Charter to protect Home Rule Authority. Resolution 2025-074, approving ballot title and explanatory statement and submitting to the voters a proposed charter amendment establishing city authority over annexation decisions. And Resolution 2025-075, approving ballot title and explanatory statement and submitting to the voters a proposed charter amendment regarding citizen involvement in land use decisions. The public hearing this evening will be conducted as follows. Staff will present a staff report, questions, if any, by the City Council for staff. We will then receive written testimony. We will then open the public hearing for testimony, and the time will be limited to 4 minutes per person. Any interested person may present testimony. We will then close the public hearing. No other comments will be heard from the public. Final comments by staff, questions of staff, if any, by the council, followed by council discussion. If you wish to speak, please fill out a request to speak form and submit it to the city recorder prior to the time the public hearing is open for testimony. The mayor will recognize people who wish to speak, and any comments must be addressed through the mayor. When you come forward, please state your name and place of residence for the record, as this hearing will be recorded.
All right, thank you, Sylvia. So the first resolution is Resolution 2025-073, declaring an emergency and calling for a special election. Ryan, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, Council. It's good to be with you tonight. I'd like to talk through first why we are here, and could we, there we go to the next slide. So why a special city council meeting for an election? So this is a special city council meeting. Usually we have them every other Tuesday, and as you know, this was scheduled differently. One of the reasons we did that specifically was ORS 221.230 requires a special council meeting in order to hold an emergency special election. In order to do that, council would need to make findings that basically show that there is a significant hardship to the community if the election is not scheduled this January. For instance, if we were to hold it on March, May, August, or November, which are the general times that are allowed for in the Oregon statute. So the 2 resolutions tonight, or the 3 resolutions, the 2 charter amendments that City Council will be considering tonight hinge on this first resolution, this emergency resolution, where Council would decide whether or not to hold a January 13th, 2026 election, and then if so, they would need to make findings basically stating why there is an emergency. Carrie, did I miss anything there? Eric, you have anything on that?
Great, thank you. So questions for Ryan? I have one question then. How do we document those findings?
So they are before you in a resolution. And so we can walk through that resolution, and essentially what you would what you would need to find tonight is that if you approve this, you would be finding that recent and anticipated state legislation threatens to abrogate and erode the city's home rule authority, particularly in the areas of public participation in land use decisions and annexation authority, which are fundamental to Sherwood's political form and community governance. Now, home rule in Oregon gives cities the ability to make decisions for themselves. It has been the case since 1906. It's enshrined in Article 11, Section 2 of the Oregon Constitution. It's a fundamental basis of city governance in Oregon, and I think that's important. Obviously, council knows that, but I think that's important for the public to be aware of as well. And so cities historically in Oregon have made these decisions on land use. They've made these decisions on annexation. They've made decisions on parks, on different things like that. And so one of the concerns that council has, from my understanding, is that there's been recent state legislation that have abrogated the authority of cities to make those decisions. And so that's a concern. And so with the special session coming up, one of the direction that staff got was to provide a resolution to council to make these findings that say, hey, it's important to our voters that they have a chance to weigh in on this and a chance to preserve our home rule authority.
Great, thank you. I have to admit I knew that answer, but I thought it was good for the public to hear that. Any other questions? Well, great. Well, then we'll go right into do we have any written testimony? I guess I should ask.
I do not, Mayor.
No written testimony. Okay, then we'll jump right into a public hearing. Sylvie, do we have anyone that signed up to give testimony
I
on
do
this?
not, Mayor.
And I'm not seeing anyone online, so we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And we'll go right back to additional questions, discussion on the resolution. Yes.
So in our work session conversation about this, and thanks to our land use attorney bringing this up, it's really hit home with me, is why this is important and what has, to me, fundamentally changed in the relationship between the state and the city in some of these matters is historically, since the home rule doctrine, 120 years, the state has generally set minimum standards. You have to at least do this much as far as public engagement and public process. You can go further if you want to as a city, and a lot of cities, including Sherwood, have chosen to go further in some of these cases. We want to have a more robust public process than the minimum. We want to have more engagement than the minimum, more transparency than the minimum. What has really fundamentally changed with some of this recent and proposed legislation is the state is now actually setting a maximum and saying you can't have public process. You can't go further than what our minimum standard has been. We're actually preventing you from engaging with your own citizenry in some of these matters. And I think that's the real fundamental shift, and that's what we're here and why we need this special election so early to try to protect these things. So obviously I'm in favor.
Great.
So, on one hand, I can see where the state's coming from, right? They think that the public engagement and some of these things are slowing down and making it more expensive to develop affordable housing or different kinds of housing or different things like that. I'm kind of the opinion of Councilor Scott that more input is from the public can't be a worse thing, right? We have to allow for us to have input in these kinds of things, and I don't believe that it's significantly slowing down. I know the people in our permitting department and our metrics show it that we do have a good turnaround on that. So I don't think that that's the issue. And more important on my side is we don't know if the last laws they passed are actually effective yet into creating more housing and things like that. As we're changing these things and really trying to get a quick win, I feel like they're doing it at the expense of the people who are currently living here and currently what makes Sherwood so special. And so I want to preserve that as well and be a partner in trying to get different kinds of housing built and stuff like that. But I don't see doing that at the expense of less people giving their input. I don't see it as at the expense of ignoring design standards or some of these other things that are proposed. And so I'm for it as well, because I don't think sacrificing those actually accomplishes the goal of getting more affordable housing. And whether it does or not, we don't know, because they're coming so fast that we can't really see the effect. So I'm for it, just to allow Sherwood residents to have more of a say in how Sherwood grows in the future.
Councilor Mace.
Or Council President first.
Oh, yeah. Councilor Young.
Hello, good evening. Yeah, all of what Councilor Scott and Councilor Giles said. I think trying to take away public participation in land use decisions is counter to statewide land use goal 1. And so they have this required goal, but they're now going against that goal by taking away our right to have our citizens participate in our land use process. So I am for this as a tool for Sherwood to make sure our citizens have a say in what's going on in their community.
Thank you, Mayor. Echoing what everyone already said, very well said. And it's important for people to realize we're not suggesting that we want to add time to the clock for a project. We have the 120-day rule. We honor the 120-day rule. Nothing that's suggested here would alter the 120-day rule. It's just like saying, hey, we want people to shine the light on something and let people say, hey, that's cool, or no, that's not cool, and what's wrong with that? And when it's an application like a planned unit development, for those that might not be aware, a PUD means an applicant can almost write their own rules, or suggest in their application writing their own rules. And those ones really, really should see the light of day. And we're not, like I said, we're staying within the time frame. And if a developer is embarrassed to let people look and see what they were proposing, then maybe it's not a good proposal. So I'm also in favor of what's being presented to us.
Go ahead, Dan.
Thanks. For me, this does rise to emergency. When our public engagement is being limited, when there's a ceiling put on that, how much we can engage the public for land use hearings, that's a problem for me. And so, I mean, I'm very in favor of declaring an emergency for this, to ensure that we get this robust public engagement that we need for this city of ours.
Great. Councilor Browse, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I think you've all pretty much stated it. I don't feel like I need to restate. So great job.
Well, thank you, everyone. I'll just add that a couple of things. I agree with everything that's been set up here. I do think this rises to the level of an emergency. And just to give a little history here, this is not like we just all of a sudden found out this is happening and we're choosing this path. We, over the last 4 to 5 years, the city, working through various advocacy groups like the League of Oregon Cities and the Metro Mayors Consortium, has been working with the legislature to try to get them to understand that it is important that we have home rule. It is important that we have local decisions. Not all cities are the same. We have different challenges, different problems. Cities are at the nexus of all these different rulemaking processes coming in, whether it's regulatory through CFEC or whether it's coming from the different land use offices at the state level or the county or metro. And we're the ones trying to figure out how to piece all that together and make it work. And it's incredibly difficult. So it's important that we have local control. Our state constitution says we're supposed to have local control. So we want to enshrine that right in our charter. One of the things I want to make sure people are aware of too, in our charter, it talks about voter-approved annexations, and we're leaving that in there. But back in, I think it was 2017, 16, the state passed a law that we're no longer allowed to have voter-approved annexations, which was a long-standing tradition in Sherwood. That was fought in court. I think City of Corvallis led the way on that, and ultimately the cities failed in winning that case in court. So we're not allowed to have voter-approved annexations. We can have council can approve them, but voters can't. But we wanted to leave that language in there because, one, the voters put it in there in the first place, and two, if for some reason that language ever gets repealed in the future, or there's a different court case that repeals it, we get it back. It's back in our charter, and it's enforceable again. So I'm. And the other thing I wanted to mention too is we've had 2 work sessions on this specific topic leading up to this, but even before that, we've had many work sessions on the bills that are coming out of Salem, how we're going to address them, the impact they're going to have on our city. One thing that wasn't mentioned that I want to shine a light on is we just approved an expansion of the, we didn't, we recommended to Metro, they expand the urban growth boundary around the city on the Sherwood West side. And leading up to that, we did extensive work with the community to figure out what's the plan, what does that look like, what type of housing are we going to have, what's the mix of housing to jobs to hospitality to preserving resource areas. And I believe we got to a really good plan that the majority of our citizens were very happy with. And so another part of this for me is protecting our rights, citizen engagement, annexation agreements, to make sure that we get what we promised our community. And a lot of the stuff that's coming out of Salem and these preemption of local authority threatens that plan. And so that's another reason for me that these are important things to get into our charter, assuming the voters approve it. It's not our decision. The only thing we can do is refer it to a vote. But we do think it's important. I also believe it's an emergency because we want to get this in place before the next legislative session starts up in Salem. So that would be my comments. Anybody have anything else on this one? Well,
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 2025-073, declaring an emergency and calling for a special election to amend the Sherwood City Charter to protect home rule authority.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Sylvia, we got to do a roll call.
No, Mayor.
Okay. All those in favor of approving resolution 2025-073, declaring an emergency and calling for a special election to amend the Sherwood City Charter to protect home rule authority, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say same. Motion passes. Thank you, Council. All right, we'll move to the next resolution, Resolution 2025-074, approving ballot title, an explanatory statement, and submitting to the voters a proposed charter amendment establishing city authority over annexation decisions. Ryan, you're up again.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. So one of the things that's required, as you know, before we put something on the ballot is that the city council refer that to the voters. And in this case, after the work sessions that you've mentioned on October the 7th and October the 21st, we believe we've dialed the language in for the charter amendment, and we've published that in a resolution and again in a staff report. So we believe that's ready to go on the ballot, and it's here for your consideration. So Mayor, I'll defer to you. Would you like me to read through that again? How would you like me to do it?
I think for the benefit of the public, because we've had some, let me turn my mic on. I think for the benefit of those watching or who might watch this video in the future, I think you have that in the slide deck too?
I do, and I think we're having some technical difficulties seeing it. Oh, you are? Okay.
Okay, there it is.
There we go.
I think it would be good to read, just to go through this for the benefit of the viewing public. In previous work sessions, we've had some candidate language that's been tweaked as we've moved forward, just letting everybody know what the final language is.
Sure.
That'd be great.
So what we'll do is we'll start by reading what the amendment would state. So it would say Section 3, Boundaries. The city includes all territory within its boundaries as they now exist or are legally modified, unless required by a public health emergency as defined by ORS 222.850 and ORS 222.855, Annexations may only take effect with the approval of city voters. The city recorder will maintain as a public record an accurate and current description of the boundaries. Determining the city's jurisdictional boundaries is declared to be a matter inherent to its political form. The city shall have the exclusive authority to review, approve, or deny annexation requests subject to the procedures and standards adopted by the ordinance of the City Council. These procedures shall not be preempted by state laws that modify or eliminate this authority. The caption that you will see, to the extent that you approve this, would say, it amends the charter, establishes city authority over annexation decisions. The question for the voters is, shall the Sherwood City Charter be amended, granting Sherwood exclusive authority over annexation decisions, independent of state laws modifying such authority? A yes vote would amend the city charter to make 2 changes to Section 3, boundaries relating to annexation. First, this amendment would add clarifying language that the voter-approved annexation is required in all cases, except with respect to health and hazard abatement. Second, this amendment declares that the procedures governing review of annexation requests, i.e. hearings, notices, annexation agreements, are foundational components of open and democratic governance within the city. This amendment grants the city exclusive authority to review, approve, or deny annexation requests subject to procedures and standards adopted by the Sherwood City Council through ordinance. These procedures cannot be preempted by state laws that alter or constrain the city's annexation authority. The amendment ensures local control over annexation decisions and confirms home rule authority. No direct fiscal impact has been identified. And I'm happy to take any questions that council may have.
Great, thank you, Ryan. Questions? Dan?
With this going to vote, what is the threshold for this to be put into the charter then? Is it a simple majority by voters?
Yes.
Given that we are not just leaving the legacy language about voter approved annexation in here, but essentially doubling down on it in the language we're using in the charter or the proposed explanatory statement. Is our intent to attempt to actually do that in future annexations, to require them to go to a vote?
So I think that's a political question for council as far
I
as
just don't remember us
policy
having that
goes.
conversation, so that's why I'm asking.
I think that's a future decision. I think we added some clarity in this around public health emergencies, and can't remember who I was talking to. A great example was like there's a neighboring property that has a very large septic system that's creating a severe public health issue for a water supply or something like that. So we can take care of problems like that. And we're careful to put language in there as defined by, as opposed to in accordance with. So we're just using that definition as opposed to complying with state law. For me, on the voter stuff, there's established case law that says we can't do it. So it's probably a pretty tough hill to get over and to change that. I wouldn't suggest that we're going to go sue the state and try to get that reversed today. That's just my personal opinion. My take would be that if for some reason down the road that gets repealed, then we are back to the original state, which our voters had approval over annexation. So we're not taking that away from a future group. So that would be my take on that.
Yeah, I mean, we have essentially not been challenging that for the last several years, right? And to me, the second paragraph here on this annexation piece that we're seeing right now is the stuff we've been talking about, that's not necessarily requiring a vote of the public for annexation, but really saying we can do annexation agreements and do some of these other tools to strengthen our annexation process. So I'm a little challenged by this one. Like, I like the second part. It feels like we're weakening our own stance if we're saying we're gonna double down on this language, but we have no intent to try to enforce the first paragraph, but we are going to try to enforce the second paragraph.
I wouldn't say we have no intent. I think we have
That's why I asked.
I know. We have case law already. We had a city that tried. already. So we would have, something would have to change in the case law, that'd be a question for the attorneys. We would probably have to see something out there in precedents to say, okay, now we could win this or something like that.
The intent, I think, with that language is to clarify that the state law exemption was always for the public health hazard provision, that you wouldn't have to go to the voters when a septic system fails and it's an emergency. That we're just trying to clarify the existing language in the charter to make it clear that that's the term that we're, to provide that additive information. How the city proceeds given the Corvallis holding that says annexation is a statewide matter when it comes to voter approval is a separate question that will have to be decided, I think, at a later date. I don't think what we've added here is changing anything with respect to the meaning of that sentence as it was originally intended.
And Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong. And for people listening, this is Carrie Richter,
Sorry.
Our land use attorney expert, but thank you. Our current charter language says voter approved annexation in accordance with state law. So under our current charter language, we do have to comply with the state law. We don't have that. This actually gives us more flexibility in terms of court precedents than we've had before. So I think that was part of it too, is removing that in accordance with state law. Because it was just
the
a general,
broadness of the in accordance with state law. To say the in accordance with state law only applies to the public health emergency cases. And that gives the city, I believe, more flexibility with respect to voter-approved annexations.
Yes, go ahead. Or Keith first, then Dan.
So I certainly read this and had lots of questions. I am supportive of this because of what we are trying to protect communities' rights, and I see no future in which case law changes on enabling us to have citizen voted annexations. Zero path for that to occur.
Dan?
For me, when I was reading through this, I took that first paragraph as giving some historical perspective to our political forum, that we have always gone to the voters for city annexation until recently, and that is inherently who we are as a city. And so that just reinforces this second paragraph for me, that the city is still going to have exclusive authority for that. And we will reach out to our own voters. It may not be an actual vote, but we will get the community involved with any annexation as a city.
100%.
Well said.
Yeah, and I think we really, and Ryan and Carrie can correct me, we really only kind of had three options around this. We could have removed the language about voter-approved annexations, which I didn't like because that's something that our voters put in there in the first place, and we're trying to protect voter rights. Or we leave it as is, which I didn't like because it had that broad definition of in accordance with state law with no references. I like this much better because it's not in accordance with, meaning we're just complying with state law. It says we're just using that definition of what a public health emergency is if some point down the road we wanted to bypass voter-approved annexations if we were allowed to. Is that basically the three options we had?
That is correct, Mayor. And with this language, the law could change, right? The law could change, and then the city would be able to proceed with voter-approved annexations, except in the public health and safety, or except in the public health emergency scenario. So I think it gives the city as much flexibility while keeping with the original intent.
Yeah, I think my question has been answered previously, which is does changing this wording to clarify it weaken our case at all, because we voted that stuff into our charter a long time ago before the state made the change, right? So is it one of those things where it gives us more of a leg to stand on because we did it, 20 years ago or whatever, versus now? And I think I've heard that it doesn't really matter in terms of time that it's been in our charter. So that was okay.
I think Carrie and I both agree with that, and I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you mind using your cone illustration that you did last time? You talked about how these things are in cones. Do you remember that, or am I going to throw in that?
Why don't you refresh my memory?
I put her on the spot. No, so we believe that basically home rule is in a separate cone than state preemption to a certain extent, right? So if they're in separate spaces, even if the state has already ruled on something, if they infringed on home rule authority, we believe we have an argument.
Okay.
To make put it as simply as possible. Did I do that okay, Carrie?
That was
I didn't mean to
perfect.
put words in your mouth.
Very well said.
All right.
Great. And then could we see the next slide, I think, that has the explanation on it? There was one word that I wasn't sure about. Well, now we're...
Nope. Is that it?
You talked about the explanatory statement?
Yeah, the explanatory statement.
That's
yeah.
the explanatory statement.
I can't see it.
I have
Where is it? Okay. Yeah, I just, I wanted to make sure we were defining political form.
Took that language out.
We did. We tried to clarify what that was, right? It's a core part of the city's government, and then in parentheses we put political form. That was one of the concerns that you had last time,
Yeah.
Counselor, and I believe we clarified that.
Yeah.
Well enough. But if you have specific questions, happy to answer those.
I think what we talked about, foundational components of open and democratic governance within the city, sort of as these core values. And I felt like that language was a little more approachable than the term of art political form. I'm sorry, what?
Renee, Kim, did you have any questions?
No, I'm in agreement with the change.
I too, you guys answered all the questions.
Great. Well, with that, we can go ahead and move into do we have any written testimony? I should ask that first. No. We'll move right into a public hearing then. Sylvia, do we have anyone signed up?
I do not, Mayor.
And doesn't look like we have anyone online, so we'll close the public hearing. We can have more discussion, or we can move to a resolution or a motion.
I move the resolution.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2025-074, approving ballot title and the explanatory statement and submitting to the voter a proposed charter amendment establishing city authority over annexation decisions. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say same. Motion passes. Motion passes. Thank you, Council. Gotta mix it up. All right, so we're gonna head and move to our last resolution. Resolution 2025-075, approving ballot title and the explanatory statement and submitting to the voters a proposed charter amendment regarding citizen involvement in land use decisions. Ryan, you are up again.
All right, I'm going to put my best reading voice on here and do the same thing. Mayor, this would add section 49 to the city's charter, and it would be captioned Citizen Involvement in Land Use Decisions. As a city that is of the people, by the people, and for the people, Sherwood is committed to hearing from the people. Sherwood is entrusted to ensure citizen involvement in land use decisions as mandated by statewide land use goal number 1. The City Council shall establish by ordinance procedures to ensure transparency and meaningful public participation in all phases of the land use process, including notice, hearings, and appeals. These procedures are inherent to Sherwood's political form and are rooted in Sherwood's home rule authority. These procedures shall not be preempted by state laws that limit public engagement and include no Type 3 or higher land use application as specified by adopted city ordinance shall be decided without at least one duly noticed neighborhood meeting and one public hearing before the City Council or its delegated decision-making body. A public hearing shall also be held before deciding any appeal using procedures set by ordinance, and mailed notice in advance of neighborhood meetings and public hearings must be sent to all property owners within 1,000 feet of the subject property for all Type 2 or higher applications using the classifications and timelines prescribed by ordinance. Additional notice methods, such as published or electronic notices, may also be required. The caption here would say it amends the charter and enshrines citizen involvement in land use decision. The question is, shall the Sherwood City Charter be amended acknowledging existing neighborhood meeting, public hearing, and notice requirements for certain land use applications? A yes vote will amend the city charter, committing Sherwood to citizen involvement in land use decisions consistent with statewide land use goal number 1. It directs the city council to establish ordinances ensuring transparency and meaningful public participation throughout the land use process, including notice, hearings, and appeals. These procedures, rooted in the city's home rule authority, cannot be preempted by state laws that limit public engagement. Key requirements include no Type 3 or higher land use application may be decided without at least one duly noticed neighborhood meeting and one public hearing before the city council or delegated body. Appeals require a public hearing based on procedures set by ordinance. For Type 2 or higher applications, mailed notice must be sent in advance to all property owners within 1,000 feet of the subject property using classifications and timelines set by ordinance. Additional methods, such as published or electronic notices, may also be mandated. The amendment has no direct fiscal impact identified and will not alter the city's current land use processing procedures. I'm sorry. I'll note that we have our Community Development Director sitting here quietly over there too, so if you have questions for Eric, fire away.
Maybe more questions, because I'm sure people listening to this are going, what's a Type 2 and what's a Type 3? You mind giving a little kind of explanation of what that kind of means as far as our code goes?
Yeah, great.
Let me repeat that. Sorry, my mic was off. Eric Rutledge, our Community Development Director. Before we get to questions, could you just give a little color around what a Type 1, Type 2, Type 3 decision is, so people listening kind of understand what we're talking about there?
Of course. A Type 2 application would be a staff decision made by planning staff, overseen by myself, Community Development Director. It would require mailed notice within 1,000 feet of the site. People that receive that notice, anyone else in the city, could comment on that application before a decision is made.
I think the question is, what is the definition of Type 2 versus
Yeah,
Type 1
give some
versus Type 3,
examples.
or examples.
In terms of types of development?
Yeah.
Like, what's the threshold? Why is it a Type 2 versus a 3?
Thank you for clarifying. Type 2 would be 15,000. So if we're looking at commercial and industrial, it would be 15,000 square feet or less is a Type 2. 15,000 to 40,000 square feet commercial industrial is a Type 3. Over 40,000 is a Type 4. So it goes for commercial industrial based on the size of the proposed building.
What about residential?
Oh, you're gonna test my knowledge here. So residential, it would actually be the same for multifamily buildings. It would be.
You can ballpark it. We're not gonna hold you to the exact number. We're just trying to give it a sense of scale, right?
Yeah, don't quote me on being the same. So in terms of subdivisions, it would be Type 2 would be 10 lots or less would be a Type 2. Over from about 10 to 25, 30-ish would be a Type 3, and above 25, 30 would be a Type 4.
Yeah, and for reference, like a Type 2 industrial would be like about the size of 2 lots in Woodhaven would be about equivalent size.
Yep, 5,000 square feet,
Yeah.
two lots would be 10,000.
Yeah, so, great, thank you for that. I just want to make sure people kind of understood what that meant. This is really important because under Senate Bill 974 that was passed in the last session, they actually said we are not allowed to have a public hearing for a type 3 or lower. And in addition to that, even if the council wanted to, like if we knew staff had gotten a type 3 proposal and we want, or a PUD, which Councilor Mays was talking about, even if we wanted to have a work session, we would be barred from doing that. And which for me is not very democratic. So that's one of the reasons we're doing this. So anyways, I apologize. I think, Doug, you had a question.
I don't have questions.
Okay.
For me.
Good for you. Dan?
What, in the current Senate bill, what did the notice change to as far as distance from the property?
I think you're referring to SB 974. So it would have limited public notice to no more than 100 feet of the property, when our current code is 10 times that at 1,000 feet.
Okay, thank you.
And in most cases, 100 feet would be one property.
One or
Maybe
two.
two.
Yeah,
In
if
a
you assume-
residential environment, two.
Yep.
In a commercial or industrial, it's probably just the adjoining parcel.
Yeah.
only.
Yep.
So,
Yep. So in a
Pretty absurd.
in a Woodhaven type subdivision, if you have a proposal and a 100-foot notice, it would be two properties on each side of that property.
It's also worth noting that some of the advocates for that bill said it would speed up permitting. Under current rules, we have to approve or deny a permit within 120 days. That bill did not change that at all. So in effect, the only thing Senate Bill 974 was doing was limiting public input. Did some other things too, but on that particular topic, that's all it was doing.
Yeah, I actually do have a comment, I guess.
Well, let's go.
Oh,
technically, we should
questions. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. All right.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I made some comments too. I was just trying to add color. Do we have any more questions? Kim, Renee? No? All right, so we will go any written testimony submitted. Right, great. So we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Sylvia, do we have anyone that wants to give testimony tonight?
I do not, Mayor.
And double check online. We do not online, so I'll close the public hearing. So now we can have a discussion.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I want housing. I want to grow responsibly in Sherwood. I want to be treated by Salem as a partner in this. I know when I talk to builders, they want to build beautiful homes. They want to build affordable homes. They want to build, so like, I want my kids to be able to move back here. All of these different things that will keep our schools full, that will keep this vibrant, or this community vibrant for 30 years. But it needs to be done in partnership with the city, and I feel like by limiting the city, not only the city council's voices, but all of the citizens' voices, that this is actually having the opposite effect, where you're going to get, you could potentially get buildings that do not help the city grow and what makes it, special. And by the way, not every type of housing is great for everywhere, right? And so these can't be made at a state level. It has to be made at the city level. And so I have a tremendous amount of respect and confidence in our city staff, but they also, this is a job, for them, and the elected officials plus the citizens need to have a voice in this. It can't just be let, I don't want to leave it to city employees to have to make decisions on stuff that frankly we as a citizenry have to live with for the next 50 years, right? And so let's see if we can make this as partners in housing and in solving the housing problems versus being forced to do it with less involvement. So,
Well said.
Yeah, I have something to say about this one. the legislators in Salem and the governor who signed this bill that ought to be ashamed of themselves. In fact, that's probably not a strong enough word for what I think about this part of that bill. It's despicable. It's disgusting. It's un-American. It's undemocratic. It's unrepresentative. The idea that the public interest would be better served by limiting public engagement, preventing public engagement, is absurd on its face, is absolutely unfathomable to me that anyone would think that's a good idea. And I'm embarrassed and ashamed to be an Oregonian, and I've been a lifelong Oregonian, but with this piece of legislation that did this I can't even explain how horrendous it is. And the fact that how many people in Salem voted for this? 40, 50 people? Well, I guess, and maybe double that because you had both houses. Actually debated this, maybe, and passed it. With this piece of it, it's just despicable. And look, let's get to Sherwood here. Like, we want to be about what the right things, right? We want transparency. We want to let people know what's happening. Give you a voice to come and talk about it. Share your concerns. Share your excitement. Have a hand in the process that we're all supposed to have a hand in as members of this community and members of a self-governing society. And this completely destroys that, what Salem has done. And look, we need to take that back. And I think this is a great piece of charter amendment language that we can hopefully start the attempt to take that back, because Salem, you should be absolutely ashamed of yourselves. This is despicable. I can't say that enough. It's just unconscionable. Thank you.
So very, very, very well said. I couldn't agree with you more. I just want to add one thing to that. Senator Neron Mislin, who represents us in the Senate and used to represent his House, she has been one of the few voices standing up for local control and standing up for home rule, and has consistently voted against these bills. So I agree with your statement, but I just also want to give Senator Mislin a lot of credit because she's been a very strong voice on this.
It's not even a local control issue, really. It's an undemocratic issue.
No, I agree. No, 100%. Yeah, but very strong voice on that, and I just want the constituents to know that. Go ahead.
Or you were.
No, I already said my piece and tried to keep it less fiery, and then Doug fired it up, and I amen to what he said. So.
Well said. Comments all around. Very supportive of this amendment. I think it's important. I'm absolutely advocating for us to do this. I ask the voters to weigh on it as well. The land use process in Oregon tries to make it very straightforward for folks to develop. Here are the rules. Follow the rules. You can do your thing. Oregon has created a lot more flexibility in the last few years on that. Again, here are the rules. Follow the rules. You can build. There are a very short list of things that we still can weigh in on as a community and as elected bodies and staff when there is an application. For those short list of things, we shouldn't be afraid to let folks see what people are suggesting and let people weigh in on it. And I believe most developers want to do good projects. I believe people want to be good neighbors, want avoid this NIMBY stuff. But hey, there's also a lot of smart folks in those communities that might have a good idea to help make something better, or just to shine a light and say, is this an intended part of that application? Maybe that's a mistake. I know I don't have all the right answers to all questions, and love hearing from everybody else, on things before this council and before the planning commission and before staff. So this is I'm very appreciative it's before us. I'm going to support it wholeheartedly, and I hope the community does as well when they have the chance to vote on it in January.
Great, thank you. Councillor Young.
I think this is my favorite bill or resolution in my time on council. Doug, right on, and I think that's going to be the soundbite that I'm going to use from now until January. So, how often do we hear from our community who it's too late, a project's, starting to be built, and we hear, wow, we didn't know anything about this, even with our best attempt to let them know of what's going on, and to limit that even more by notifying less people and not being able to have a open and transparent public meeting where our citizens can come testify, give their thoughts, where oftentimes the developers are in those rooms listening, and sometimes changes get made, whether they're required or not, because the developers are trying to be good partners with our community and they don't want to build what our community doesn't want most of the time. So that's taken away that. And like I said at the beginning on the first resolution, this goes against the very goal, statewide land use goal number 1, that the state has, put on us for forever. And now they are shirking their own goals. So I am fully in favor of this and excited to have this on our ballot.
Thank you. Renee.
So I have a couple of thoughts. One is the best part of this Section 49 is the opening statement. As a city that is of the people, by the people, and for the people, Sherwood is committed to hearing from the people. I think that is the part that gives me the most energy and drive to want to see this pass. If this resolution or what the state sent us, called in to rule, if it was simply a process where the city staff made the decisions but had public input, it wouldn't have been as big of a deal. But when you take the citizens' comments and the citizens' opportunity to engage in that dialogue, that's where the rubber meets the road for me. So I'm in favor of this resolution.
Thank you. Dan, who's next?
For me, public participation is essential for us to function as best as we can as a city. I've lived here for a little over 13 years now, and I am continually impressed and surprised by the amount of citizen engagement that we have, from library boards to traffic safety to planning commission. Our citizens show up. They want to be involved. They want to have a voice in what is happening in our city. And I am shocked that Salem would limit public participation. Historically, we as a city have welcomed citizen engagement. We continually want to welcome that. It's part of our political form. It's who we are. And I fully support adding this charter amendment.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor, for indulging me for one more comment. I believe we're going to put this on the ballot. I truly believe the community is going to vote to amend the charter with this language. And I would really be shocked and surprised, but in the event that the state tried to force us to overturn this, it would make great political theater and news. So,
See what happens.
see what happens.
See what happens. All right. Excuse me. Everyone on council, just proud to be your mayor and proud to work with you guys. You guys are great. I really appreciate everything that was said tonight. I think if you had asked me 2 years ago that Salem was going to pass a law that limited public participation to this level, I would have said you're crazy. That just couldn't happen, and it happened, and we've just continued to see this escalation in preemption, and so I am shocked as well. I couldn't believe it when I saw the language. I found it as I was working with the League of Oregon Cities and the Metropolitan Mayors Consortium lobbying against many provisions in this bill. I was shocked that we weren't being heard, that this is an important part of the democratic process in our cities. I want to just amplify what Dan said too. We have an amazing community that gets involved. They get involved in our boards and commissions. They set up amazing nonprofit groups. As a mayor and I think I can speak for all of council, we really work hard to make sure our community is involved and has a say in what's going on. Just all the work we did on Sherwood West is a great example of it. To think that someone thinks that's not okay just really grinds at me. So I am in favor of this. I look forward to getting this on the ballot, and if we all have email addresses. If anyone in the community has questions, reach out to us. We're happy to talk about it. But I'm wildly in favor of this bill, and I'm going to agree with Councilor Young. I think this is my favorite resolution that we've ever done. So,
all right. I would move that we would adopt Resolution 2025-075, approving ballot title and explanatory statement and submitting to the voters a proposed charter amendment regarding citizen involvement in land use decisions.
Second.
Second, third, fourth.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving Resolution 2025-075, approving ballot title and explanatory statement and submitting to the voters a proposed charter amendment regarding citizen involvement in land use decisions, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say aye. There you go, Doug. It passes unanimously. Thank you, Council. All right, with that, folks, we are done. Adjourn the meeting.
Good night.
Thank you, Planning Commission, for